Thanks again for joining us today. This is a conversation on the American Rescue Plan Good Jobs Challenge regional application. There has been some interest from when it was originally announced for our region to put forth an application, an ask to bring funds into the region to support sectoral partnership growth and expansion. And after several meetings, we have a concept that we want to share today and look for feedback from this group and anyone else who might want to speak into this. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to pass it over to Evan to talk about other regional initiatives and also maybe allay some confusion since there's several funding opportunities that are being considered for the region right now.
Thank you, Renee, and hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us here today. Really excited that we're all coming together to talk about this great opportunity for our region. And I just wanted to quickly make a note that there are a lot of different funding opportunities coming into our region through the American Rescue Plan funds and other state and other funds. So we want to be clear about what it is we're talking about today and differentiate that from other funding streams that we've also have identified and brought people together to discuss. So part of the requirement for a lot of the different funding streams is regional intermediaries. So they're really looking for comprehensive regional approaches. And that really speaks a lot to who Valley Vision is and the type of capacity and strength that we bring to the region, because we really are about bringing in investments and funding from outside the region, communicating out to our partners and communities about what these opportunities are, and then bringing people together to collaborate and align in order to bring the investments to our region. So that's what we've been working on. And there's three key ones just that I wanted to note to alleviate any confusion. So first, there's the Community Economic Resilience Fund. This is coming through the California state budget. It originated from ARPA funds, and we are actively pursuing this for our region. It's really oriented towards inclusive economic development planning, especially around low carbon economy. It's a whole different effort. We're continuing to bring people together around that. We have deadlines coming up in February and ongoing webinars, but that's not what this webinar is about. So I just wanted to note that that is out there, but that's not what we're talking about today. Another economic Development Administration opportunity is through the Build Back Better. That was going on in the fall. There was a regional collaboration developing an application there. Unfortunately, our region did not win that funding opportunity, but that's okay. We had some great collaboration around it. We identified a lot of great projects, and we're moving on now, really focused at this moment on the Good Jobs Challenge. I'm going to turn it back over to Renee to talk about that, but I just wanted to make sure that we understand what it is that we're talking about and know that there are multiple funding opportunities going on, and we're going to continue to engage with you across a number of different opportunities.
Thanks, Evan. And there's going to be a lot of information on the slides coming forward, so keep in mind you will receive those slides afterwards, and I apologize that there's so much information we're pushing out to you. Our intent is to share the information about the grant constraints as well as the project concept, and then to have a time for question and answer. So starting off, this is the background on the Good Jobs Challenge. The purpose of it is to form sectoral partnerships to collaboratively grow regional economies and their associated workforces by building training programs that meet the existing and emerging skill needs of employers and help workers receive quality jobs. EDA is encouraging efforts to reach historically underserved populations as listed on this slide. Next slide, please, Isa. Thank you. And here is some information. The actual deadline for the overall application is February 10th. However, in order to receive a letter of support from the California Workforce Development Board, which we definitely want, there does need to be a comprehensive draft application ready for their review on January 27th. So that really accelerates the deadline for this application. That includes all budget requests as well. The number of estimated awards are 50 for this from EDA. The award ceiling is 25 million and the award floor is 1 million. We have been discussing, I'm sure at some point it will come up, what is the ask for our region? We're looking at a single sectoral partnership and estimating in the amount of maybe 7 to 8 million. That's a ballpark at this point. EDA will provide one overarching award and then approve the release of funds over the performance period. So as you'll see later, if you haven't taken a deep dive look at this grant application, there are 3 phases. But there will be one overarching award. So needing to come up with what the amount will be for our region at the initial ask. Next slide, please, Isa. Just so you know, invisibly, Isa and Angelina Olwini are supporting this effort on the Valley Vision team. So we are thankful for their efforts. There are some key components and definitions to the application. The application requires a lead system entity, and that is a lead entity of a regional workforce training system. That would also be the applicant, and that requires the fiscal management, procurement, and administration of the federal grant. The Sacramento Employment and Training Agency has agreed to be the lead system entity. In the discussions for this application, that is a very key role that not a lot of organizations have the capacity and experience to provide. So we are thankful for that. And Roy Kim is here. As you can see, he'll be available for the question and answer section as well. It does also require a backbone organization, which is described as an intermediary across all partners in the sectoral partnership. In the concept, we're looking at Valley Vision being the backbone organization for this sectoral partnership, functioning already as the workforce intermediary for the Capital Region Workforce Boards and community colleges. Just another key component from the application, the lead system entity and or backbone organization must have convening power in the region and the capacity to coordinate all necessary regional system or partnership stakeholders. That's directly from the application. There are some other terms that are used in the application that sometimes have differing definitions. So these are listed here. This isn't a comprehensive list. Just some key terms that you may, if you're looking to partner with us in this application, that you want to be aware of. The definition of quality job straight out of the application is listed there. Also the definition of prevailing wage, which is referenced in the quality jobs. And then conditional hire and employer commitments. So this application is looking for employer commitments to hire, robust employer and industry involvement, and employer commitments to hire. So if you are a training organization that's looking to participate in this application, there will be a need to demonstrate your relationships with employers and previous track records of employers hiring coming out of the training programs that you provide. Next slide, please. So the overall project goal and concept is a coordinated digital skill building scaffolded pipeline from priority neighborhoods and populations to high quality jobs in the ICT sector and positions crossing key sectors of our regional economy aligned with the greater Sacramento regional prosperity strategy. And this project would address current skill gaps through the development of clear career pathways in ICT, spanning the intersectionality of our target clusters, including food and ag, life sciences, and future mobility. So while this is a single sector approach, it is intended to fill occupational needs across other sectors and support place-based assets such as Aggie Square and the California Mobility Center, in addition to just overall ICT needs. Next slide, please. The strength of this proposal will be linking together the network of community-based organizations, skill building activities, and training entities that already exist, and those that are securely attached to employer needs while ensuring access to the community members most in need. So we're very much aware, and the reason that this concept is the one that moved to the top with many that were considered is that there is already a vibrant network of community-based organizations and training providers functioning in the ICT space. We saw some of that through the CARES funded initiatives that the city of Sacramento administered, and other entities that are operating there. So we think we have some very clear core competencies in the region in this sector, and some that are already very ground level working with priority populations. It's just a matter of having a more developed systems approach to scaffolding this pipeline, and developing the clearly defined career pathways and entry points and upskilling points for our region's residents. Further in this definition, it lines out some occupations that are being considered for high priority based on their the labor market analysis of their growth potential. I won't read them to you. You'll have this after. Next slide, thanks, Lisa. There's 3 phases to this application. There's a system development phase, and this would include convening employers, industry, and stakeholders to design a sustainable structure for the ICT training ecosystem leading to quality jobs. This effort from EDA is about developing something that's sustainable beyond the grant funding duration. And then working with employers and stakeholders to identify the occupations and skill level so that we can look across industries, and then secure employer commitments to hire workers that successfully complete training components of the project. Some of you participate in multiple other workforce provider convenings, and that conversation has come up multiple times. How do we get our employers to commit to hire from priority populations or from publicly funded workforce training programs? That would definitely be a component of what is addressed here. We'd also be looking to cut across traditional silos to link together integrated supports to ensure access, perseverance, and success for traditionally underserved community members. And I will say that as a condition of this award, or as a part of this process, if we were awarded, there would be a negotiated time between our concept and EDA coming up with outcomes and metrics for each phase of the process, of how we would be measured. And then the funding is released in phases based on meeting those established performance metrics, or agreed upon performance metrics, I should say. Next slide, please. The program design phase would include defining specific roles and responsibilities for stakeholders. And that's about, in phase 1, we're really building that broad coalition. And phase 2 is the group deciding as a group, who's responsible for what pieces of the sustainability of the model that we've designed together. We would develop the process to translate employer needs for skills into training models, developer scale regional training. We're anticipating that as we look at a scaffolded approach, from early access and low-level skill access to ICT careers, that there will be some missing steps in the scaffold, and figuring out how to address that, developing the curriculum related to that, and determining which training partners are going to address that part of the pipeline need. We create a sustainable process to make the information on in-demand occupations within the sector, the training information and skill building activities, and the funding to support these easily accessible to community members. So this is actually specifically written into the grant application, and it is also very much needed. We can build something great, but if the community members who need it the most are not aware of it, how to access it easily, then it's not going to do much good in terms of moving the needle on equitable outcomes. Next slide, please. And I apologize, I'm not looking at the chat right now, so we'll entertain questions after. I'm not that great of a multitasker. So phase 3 is program implementation, and this is where we scale and or implement new training models or foundational skill building components along career pathways, monitoring the progress of funded providers, providing technical assistance and support, measuring training completion, employment outcomes, average wage, career progression, job retention, and employer satisfaction. So this is implementation and measuring to outcomes, and ensuring that we are meeting the metrics that were agreed upon earlier in the process. And we're creating, again, something sustainable that delivers what employers, both employers and community members need, and is addressing the needs of the region. Next slide, please. These are allowable activities listed in the solicitation. They include foundational skills training programs, registered apprenticeship models, work and learn models, certification or credentialing programs, wraparound services for workers, which also includes career coaching and navigation, professional development and capacity building to trainers and educators, equipment costs and expenses related to securing space, and other non-construction expenses to provide components of the program. Bolded at the bottom is building-based construction projects are not eligible under the solicitation. Next slide, please. So the next steps after this informational webinar will be that the recording will be shared. We will be sending out a partner survey in the next few days that will include an opportunity for any organization to submit how they would like to participate in the application, what services they'd like to provide, what kind of budget would be necessary to provide those services, how does that fit within the core competencies of the organization, what's your previous track record of providing those services, and if training services are part of what is being requested to be included, what are your relationships with employers, and specifically listing those, and because that is a required component of this application. So please look for that survey coming out in the next few days. We will have a secondary webinar and update in probably a week or two. I don't have an exact date for that, but there'll be another informational webinar to describe how the process is going. And we will keep all those that are registered and on the distribution list informed on the status of the grant application, when it's submitted, any information we receive on it, and then of course, information on whether it is awarded or not. And I can get one more slide. So the assistance that we need from you is when you do receive the survey, if you're interested in partnering in this application, please complete it in a timely manner. And I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to receive it and then we're going to want it in 7 or 10 days or something that you're going to wish you had more time. That's just the planning horizon for this project. So please make it a priority. Providing any customized letters from employers as either conditional hires or employer commitment to hire will strengthen this application for the region. So the more commitments we have from employers will strengthen our opportunity to bring these funds to the region. So whether you are asking for a budgetary consideration in this application or not, if you have those relationships with employers and can encourage them to write a letter, and is requested that it not be a template letter. EDA has suggested that they prefer a free-form letter, that they are willing to hire from training programs included or being developed through the Good Jobs Training Initiative for the Sacramento Capital Region. Basically, is what we need them to engage in. And then as we share the recording and the survey, please share with others who may not have been notified. We did our best to distribute this wide and large. We distributed this to our Sacramento Coalition for Digital Inclusion members, our eConnect members, our workforce development partners, key partners list, community-based organizations. And we asked some of those organizations to also forward this out, but we do want to make sure that the table is spread wide and long. And if there are others that need to be included in this that haven't received the information, please help us to share that. If you have any additional questions or information, you can email myself or Angelina. Angelina is specifically going to be managing the distribution list and the letters of support for this application. So information can go to her. Of course, we work together, so if either of us receive something, we can collaborate on that. And that is the sum total of information that we are pushing out, and we're definitely interested in answering any questions you have within our capacity. And I will look and see what might be in here.
Renee, we had a hand raised earlier. I can go ahead and unmute that person if that works, and they can ask their question.
Okay.
I believe it was Alejandro.
Hi, yes, this is Alejandro with Councilman Garrett's office. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I just had a quick question, and maybe this is for the SETA team. But it seems like a lot of the state and federal grants are requiring our CBOs to show that they have that ability to place hires after they complete the training, whatever training they're doing for any particular program. And I guess the only concern that I have is that, you know, I mean, it's good accountability. We want our CBOs to be able to deliver and place folks. But my only concern is that maybe some of those CBOs that serve multilingual communities might not necessarily have access or connections with employers that can actually hire folks that are going through their pipelines. And so I was just wondering if there's any particular regional efforts, whether it is with the chambers of commerce or the business improvement districts, to facilitate those relationships with our local CBOs, to kind of start creating that capacity building, I guess, to have that relationship between CBOs and employers.
I don't know if that was directed specifically to Roy. I could speak to that a little bit, that this initiative overall is designed to begin in the system design phase with employer and industry engagement and get employer commitments across the whole initiative. Agree with you on that challenge. And there has been some conversations between the city of Sacramento, SETA, and the community colleges about collaborating together on a single point of contact for employer engagement and trying to coordinate that more effectively for the region. I don't know if that fully answers your question. I'll defer to Roy.
Yeah, I may not be able to fully answer it either, Alejandro, but first of all, let me just say thank you, big thank you to Renee and the team from Valley Vision for organizing this and really taking a leadership role in trying to bring additional funds to the region, whether it's federal or state SURF funds. But going back to Alejandro's question, I mean, you know, a lot of the things in this particular project, many of the things will need to be implemented after the planning phases that Renee kind of talked about in the grant. It's kind of an iterative process. For those that are familiar with it, the Good Jobs Challenge looks an awful lot like the state's High Road Training Partnerships solicitations that have come out. And there's another one that should be coming out sometime in the spring. And so I think this may be a good tune-up for the region for that application as well. But I think you know, we have a good CEDS strategy here in the region. It allows us to really develop a comprehensive IT sector initiative, which has really been lacking, I think, in this region. There's a lot of good work that's going on, but it tends to be a little fragmented or siloed, if you will. And I think that it allows us to really support the place-based initiatives that are key to this region. Initiatives like Aggie Square, for example, and the Mobility Center. And so I think, you know, the intent here in this information webinar is to share information and get as much input as possible from organizations that want to be involved in the application. So anyway, Alejandro, a lot of the details will probably have to be worked out as we go forward.
All right, thank you.
I see a question from Gina, and I'm not sure I'm catching all questions on how are partners going to be chosen, or how are we choosing partners. And so the survey is going to be an opportunity to receive information from anyone who wants to be a part of the application. And that will be the information that's used to see who will be included in the application. We are, again, trying to set the table wide and long. So we're looking to include as many partners as possible. When we send out the survey, there will be a question about, there'll be some questions about, you know, what kind of components are you looking to provide? What would be the budget needs for that? That's to help us to figure out how much to ask for in terms of the region. Again, we do fully expect that we will be building some components in from the outset, and there will be some things that we'll need to have room for that we will discover during the process. I don't know if that 100% answered your question, Gina. If not, if you want to raise your hand, I think Isa can do something there to allow you to talk. Okay.
We've got another hand raised, Renee, Dean Peckham. I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. Hi, Dean.
Hey,
Go ahead
Renee.
if you can hear us. Yep.
I'm good. Renee, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So,
got you.
are the public sector entities going to be participants in terms of, you know, letters of commitment? So are you talking to the cities and the counties and the state? Because within the ICT arena, they would be a major employer and could probably give you a good idea of what their demand is going to be.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Dean, to have our public sector employers be provide letters of commitment as employers for these positions. Thank you. It's a great suggestion.
I'm going to unmute another person with a question. Susan Wheeler. Susan, go ahead if you can hear us.
Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, it looks like
Yes.
yes. So I'm very interested in the commitment expectations from employers. Are there salary ranges, durations, kind of what is the level of commitment that's being expected? And you may not have the answer to this here, but and then just the plan to get those commitments from employers, because I know that's, I think as you both have indicated, that's a challenge.
Thanks for the question, Susan. So because we will be proposing for all 3 phases of the grant application, it's not 100% essential that we have the employer commitment letters as it would be if we were just doing phases 2 and 3 or phase 3. But we know that it strengthens the application to have employer commitment letters. So we want to have some that we submit with the application. So in terms of ways to do that, we are communicating with our employer serving organizations to see if they can help with that as well. There are definitions that I shared on one of the slides. So basically, employer commitment is that they're committing to hire either a specific number of workers who successfully complete training programs through this partnership, or conditional hires that they would hire them on successful completion of the training program and demonstration of specific skill acquisition. So it's a little bit challenging because we have been advised not to use a template, which employers really like to see. And we're trying to figure out how best to approach that. I will say that we are also in discussion with a national organization that may also be able to partner with us and bring some core competencies to this application in terms of program implementation and measuring toward outcomes. They are also participating in 2 other states with applications related to the Good Jobs Challenge, and they indicated perhaps a checklist type of opportunity to help employers develop the employer commitment letter. So we might be receiving that from them. That might help us develop something that we can communicate out. I'm not sure if that 100% answered your question, Susan.
Well, and I think, I'm still, and specifically to Dean's point, if you're looking to get letters of commitment from public entities, if they follow the civil service process, that may just be an additional hurdle, because I know for SMUD, we can't commit to bring people in. They have to pass, you know, our employment process, et cetera, and it has to be competitive, ... So I think you're going to run into that same thing with the other public entities, public sector companies as well.
Thank you. And I think the wording that we're looking for here is that, XYZ employer is, interested and committed to hiring individuals that are trained through the ICT sectoral partnership being proposed by the Capital Region's Good Jobs Challenge application. So, because we don't have all the specific components fleshed out yet, I think, it's like an intent to hire, and even if they can speak to their demonstrated need, has need for this and this and this, and then that syncs up to what the application is addressing.
Great.
That would
Thank
also
you.
be a helpful way to address it. Thanks.
A couple of more hands raised, Renee. I'll go ahead and unmute them. Colleen Moorhead, go ahead.
Colleen, did you have?
Yeah, there I am. Sorry, had to unmute. Hi, this is going to be a three-pronged question. You had referenced a survey. And so first question in regards to the survey is, as an entity that is going to propose or going to submit a proposal to you, are the questions within the survey, are they particular to elements that would be included in the proposal? For instance, would that include, let's say, a narrative, as well as, let's say, a proposed program design with activities and deliverables, as well as metrics? Would those be things that you would be capturing through the survey, or are you looking for a CBO like myself in putting together an entire packet that would include those elements, as well as letters of commitments from employers to hire individuals after that training time? And I guess the last piece of this is, what is the timeline of the proposal that you're going to be preparing? So if what we're trying to present to you is a proposal, is it for a 24 to 36 month window? And what would be our metrics of success that we would have to include within that proposal to you? And I apologize, I know that's a big question, but there's if any clarity would help. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, thank you for that. So we will not be asking for like a complete application, grant application from individuals that are interested in partnering. It'll be a very pointed survey that has specific questions that you can answer that are related to how you see, how organizations see themselves participating in the proposal. If an organization sees themselves participating by providing specific training along the ICT scaffold of jobs, then we will ask about core competencies to provide that training and previous metrics that you've demonstrated, including employability, participant completion. That information will be asked for. Let me see if I've made some notes so I could try to answer all your questions. The timeline is a good question, and we're working on that. So what we are ballparking is looking at the system design piece being potentially up to 1 year, and then the implementation part being more like 24 months. So it's probably going to be based on 24 months, but you'll have it when you have the survey.
Okay.
And then you'll have the clear constraints to be able to develop it.
Perfect. I do have one last question. So you had also mentioned that as part of our request would be that we would have a dollar amount or a budget. And you talked about allowable expenses. So for instance, would be providing, certification, training, apprenticeship, and then additional wraparound services. Is it your expectation that that we would provide you a detailed budget along with that you could include in the entire proposal?
It would be expected and will be a specific budget will be requested. How we include it in the final proposal is something that we'll be working on. But the more information we can have about budget information helps us to develop the overall budget request and in what category. So again, we're going to be looking to include some things as, as folks know now what it is that they specifically might want to be asking for, but also allowing for some room for what we don't know yet. So, and I want to make sure we allow for other questions as well. So it's, Isa, back to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For-
We've got a question from Ron Tate. Go ahead, Ron.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. As a person who's done a whole lot of what you guys are talking about, one of the questions probably the question I have is the area of concern is time. For example, if you get a letter of commitment from an employer, and if it follows the same standard as the state, what's the minimum time that in order to assess or to get the numbers that would, or the data, how much time does the person who we provide this job after the job training have to have in order to meet that minimum requirement for success? Because I'm only asking is because when we start presenting these conversations to employers, right, they're going to want to know how long does this person, if it's an internship, for example, right? If they work, if we train them or when we train them and we go out and we speak to these employers and they want to know what is a minimum time frame for these applicants or these students upon completion to be on their, to be a part of their organization prior to hire, or do they get hired before we know is it successful based on that? So, because when presenting this case to the potential employers, they're going to want to know their commitment, and before they start writing letters to say that they're on board.
Thank you. So work and earn models are allowable activities in this application. So that means internships, on-the-job training, subsidized employment are allowable activities. So if partner organizations want to propose to include those activities, they can do that. And then it depends on their design of those activities, whether it's a 3-month internship, paid internship, or a 6-month internship. I would say that the employer commitments that we're looking for and that EDA is looking for are not just hosting interns. It's about permanent hire, permanent sustainable employment. So looking for employers to commit to speak to the fact that they have job openings along this continuum, and they are interested to hire from a sectoral partnership addressing the needs for these occupations. So it's permanent, unsubsidized, long-term employment. Those are the commitments, not internship commitments. If you have this follow-up question, or if Roy.
Well, yeah, it wasn't necessarily about internships. It was more about employment. But some companies will use an internship as a way of, because students don't have experience, right? So they have to find a way to measure performance before they actually hire. So my question is, well, it's kind of something that I guess I'll kind of have to work out and work through and reach back out to you guys. And I guess I'll be a little bit more clear. But again, I've done this for a long time in the Bay Area. And it's been my experience that most companies won't commit or have a difficult time committing to students without any practical experience. So that's why I'm asking as to what the process might be from a commitment standpoint, at least in the early stages of the application.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I think that is some of the conversations we need to have with employers and industries in the system development phase is what does it take? What do we need to do in order to get that assurance of hiring? And then Roy, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, it's a good question, Ron, but I think to some degree, so conceptually what we're trying to building is a career pathway sector initiative, right? That starts at the bottom and leads to quality jobs. And so along that pathway, you're going to have a lot of different places. And I think some of the ultimate goal is a quality job, right? That's
right.
Clear. That's what EDA expects. But along that pathway, you might have some multiple stops along the way. And I think to some degree, some of those implementation details are going to be in that phase of the project. So, but the ultimate goal and commitment desired from employers that are partners in the effort would be ultimately that quality job.
And is there something that we can present from this that will kind of get the, I don't want to use the word incentivize, but maybe that's a word that we could use as we approach these employers with a way for them to buy in more directly to a long-term role for the students?
I think that we need to come up with some communication related to that for this sectoral partnership.
Yeah, I mean, the grant allows for, and we are considering as part of the application, building in some, to some degree, pay for success type of models that might be possible, but you know, I don't know that we've developed that yet.
I'm just thinking out loud because I know that it's been very, I've been doing this for a while, and I've run into a whole lot of pushback from employers when it comes to students. I don't necessarily want to use the word pay, but incentives, just from a commitment standpoint. How do you, and I worked out those details on my own end, but I don't know Sacramento yet, and it's a little different market than the Bay Area, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So to get commitment from companies that are not necessarily all tech, because I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of students that are going to have to want to come through these programs, and then not all of them are going to be tech companies.
Yes,
So there's a
thank
whole
you.
lot.
Thanks for bringing that up. Isa, back to you. Any other questions?
Yes, so I see a couple of more hands raised, and I'm going to get to those hands shortly, but there are a couple of questions in the chat I just want to read out loud first. So one from Michael Bell. Have you talked with EDD and CWDB about addressing the need to upgrade CalJobs itself? It is a statewide CRM and job search platform that is dramatically underutilized by job seekers and employers.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. And I know that's an ongoing pain point. I'm going to go ahead and pass by that if you don't mind, because it's not really relevant specifically to this application. But yes, there's a need to upgrade that platform for sure. Next question, Isa.
From Dean, do you have a budget template to share with interested partners?
We do not currently have a budget template. We'll have to decide if there's something we can put together quickly for the survey. Otherwise, we'll give some direction related to what we need to see for the budget. Thanks for that suggestion.
And we've got a hand raised from Danelle Ellison. Danelle, go ahead.
Hi, Danelle.
Hi, good afternoon. Happy New Year, everyone. Renee, thanks for the convening. It's been very informative, at least from us and perspective. This question actually is directed to Roy. Roy, I'm wondering if there's a planned role for the SETA Job Centers, considering SETA's role as the lead system entity on this particular grant.
So I guess let me see if I can give you the best answer I can give you at this point in the process. I think it depends, right? I think there are examples, like, for example, the partnership between Urban League La Familia and GSAC. There are great examples that would fit within this project. But not every job center is going to be involved in that. Each one's, got a little bit different. So I think, yes, to the degree it's applicable, we want to include those efforts, right? But not everyone is as involved in the ICT sector as you are.
Okay.
I thought I had seen another hand, but I think it is gone now. If anyone had a question that I haven't called on, please raise your hand again so I can call on you.
I do see a question in the Q&A by Buddy. Can you further explain the different sectors such as the food and ag and cybersecurity that you expect to participate? And so what I would say to this, Buddy, is that the Greater Sacramento Prosperity Strategy, the CEDS, addresses the core opportunity industry clusters for our region. And so that is what we're referring to when we're looking at an ICT sector approach, but also looking to support the key opportunity industry clusters in our region, which are food and ag, future mobility, and health and life sciences. And specifically to further support the place-based assets that have had significant investment and have significant opportunity to upscale or upskill from the neighborhoods like Aggie Square from the Oak Park neighborhood, and then the opportunities of the California Mobility Center to include priority populations in the evolving ecosystem of zero emission vehicle jobs. I don't know if that 100% answered your question. If it didn't, feel free to raise your hand. And Isa can unmute you. Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any more hands or chat or Q&A questions. Again, if anyone wanted to speak up and I missed you, please just sort of put your hand up again and I'll unmute you.
Thank you. Well, we very much appreciate your time today. And again, apologies for putting out an all call during a holiday week off for a lot of people. We did want to make sure that we have the opportunity to submit the most comprehensive application on behalf of the region. And since this, again, is intended to be a scaffold approach from priority populations and neighborhoods through to these careers, we want to make sure that we're reaching organizations that are serving community members. I know there's some on this call, as well as organizations that have training that is attached to secure employer hires. So all participants are welcome at the table. Please, again, when we send out the survey, give us return it promptly and share it widely. This is really a collaborative approach. It's intended to be collaborative, not competitive. I know in the world of grant funding, things can be very competitive a lot of the time. As Evan highlighted early in this presentation, there are a lot of funds coming into the region. There are a lot of funds available. This can really be an opportunity for us to come together as a region and to develop collaborative systems. Since there is, pretty much enough funding to go around on these sectoral issues. So we're really asking for anyone who wants to partner in this application to take off boxing gloves if you have them, and put on a tie-dyed vest. We're all going to be singing Kumbaya together and figuring out how we can work well together to extend the pipeline of training and achieve better outcomes for our region's residents and for our employers and industry partners, so that we can really see, we're hearing from our region's residents, these are the kinds of jobs that they want. They want to be working in the ICT sector. Maybe it's our proximity to Silicon Valley or the Bay Area, but they want more of these jobs to be encompassed in this region and availability for them in the neighborhoods. So that's what we're looking to address here, and really appreciate your time on this call. There may have been another question that came in, so I'm going to stop for a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Roy.
When will the slides and recording be available from Susan?
I'm going to let Isa answer. Is it immediate, Isa, or does something magical happen?
So I think we would send them out together with the survey, Renee.
Okay.
So it's sort of just all in one email. Okay. I'm not sure on your end when we're hoping to get that out.
I would say we're hoping by Friday.
Okay.
Link to the prosperity strategy. Yes, we'll get somebody. We'll
Yes.
Definitely include it in the email. I'm not sure we can quickly get it in the.
I think I can quickly pop it into the chat with the minute or so we have left. And then I will also include it in the follow-up email.
Thanks. Okay, again, thank you so much for joining us on short order, and, be thinking good thoughts as this application moves forward to bring some additional funds into the region. We're really looking for partners. Thank you for your time today.